CO powers are probably one of the most exciting mechanics of Advanced Wars. There are few things more rewarding than popping one just before a huge push and see your opponent's army get wiped off the map. The mechanics of CO powers can be explained in a few short sentences. As you keep fighting, a bar fills up, and once it is ready, you can activate your power to get a short-term boost depending on your commander. Different commanders have varying speeds at which they charge their CO power, depending on how strong they are, but the way the game calculates CO power charge is actually way more convoluted than you might think. There are several hidden mechanics revolving around powers that are never properly explained to the player, and these mechanics require data mining of the game's code in order to properly understand. So in this video, I'm gonna do my best to explain the many hidden convoluted mechanics of CO powers and how they work, so you can have a better understanding of the game. Let's dive into it. Let us first begin by explaining how powers work in Advanced Wars 1. In this game, every CO in the game gets a passive firepower and defense boost when they activate their power, even if it doesn't normally state that firepower is affected. This universal buff comes in the form of plus 10% firepower and plus 10% defense, but it is actually way more complicated than that. You see, the game doesn't just give you a 10% bonus, but rather it sets your universal damage done to 110% and your universal damage taken to 90%, and then applies the boosts. This means that a CO power like Max Force, for example, that raises firepower, gets a double benefit. Max Force may be listed as a 70% firepower increase in the game's code, but in reality, with all the buffs added up, it actually will increase your firepower by 87%. I will link to a forum thread below where someone has data mined the game's code and compiled the calculations in order to showcase the math involved behind everything. It is actually pretty complicated, and this guy explains it better than I ever could. But to summarize everything neatly, popping a CO power will make all your units both stronger and tougher for one turn. On the turn when you activate your CO power, killing units or losing them will not give you any further charge. For this reason, it is often smart to hold off with a big push until your opponent activates their CO power, as it means you can effectively destroy their units for free. This is absolutely necessary to do when going up against some of the scarier COs in the Advanced campaign. In Advanced Wars 1, you can see the power meter of the CO in the top right corner of your screen. It will gradually fill around their portrait in a half circle, glowing when it's ready to be activated. The bar looks the same for all commanders, but there are actually 4 different speeds at which it charges. First, you have the very fast CO meter, with a value of 25,000. Only Sami uses this. Then you have the fast CO meter, with a value of 30,000. This is the most common type used by Nell, Andy, Max, Olaf, Grit, and Sonya. Then you have the average CO meter, with a value of 40,000, used only by Drake. And then finally you have the slow CO meter, with a value of 50,000, used by Combi, Eagle, and Sturm. A CO power with a value of 30,000 sounds simple in theory. Destroy units worth 30,000 funds and you get your power. However, there's a hidden mechanic at play that affects the speed at which your power generates. You see, killing a unit in Advanced Wars 1 only gives you power charge equal to 25% of its total value. This means that when you shoot down a fighter, for example, worth 20,000, you will only get 5,000 funds worth of CO power meter charge. This means that Andy, who has a fast CO meter worth 30,000, will need to shoot down 6 fighters to get his hyper repair. On the other hand, losing a unit in Advanced Wars 1 gives you the full value in terms of power charge. So in this case, Andy only needs to lose 2 fighters to get his power. This mechanic is most likely built into the game to give the losing player an advantage. So in short, you generate your CO power in Advanced Wars much faster by losing units rather than destroying them. It is also worth noting that Combi's expensive units will be worth more in terms of power charge. Killing Combi's units will charge your power 20% faster than when going up against other COs, which makes sense considering they are 20% harder to kill. But keep in mind that this also applies to Combi himself. He will also charge his power 20% faster by losing his own units. In addition to the loser's advantage, there is a second passive modifier in the game that slows down CO power generation over time, a mechanic of diminishing returns. Each time you activate your CO power, its cost goes up by 20% for the remainder of the game, stacking up to 9 times. for a total increase of 280% of its base value. However, for some reason, possibly a programming oversight, the 10th time you activate your CO power and every time thereafter, the cost drops down to 200% and stays there for the rest of the game. Though this is probably not something you will ever notice, as seeing 10 CO powers activated in a single match is very rare. This mechanic of diminishing returns means that CO powers will charge much faster at the start of a match, and will then gradually slow down over time. I imagine the developers put this mechanic in the game to ensure that powers wouldn't be spammed too much in big battles with tons of units on each side. So anyway, that's everything you need to know about CO powers in Advanced Wars 1. Let's move over to the second game. In Advanced Wars 2, we now get powers visualized by stars. Each star represents a total value of 9,000 funds. So in other words, it's easier to imagine that they are worth a battlecopter each. Since each CO now has a superpower in addition to a normal power, this is represented by smaller stars for the normal power and big stars for the superpower. But the big stars, while they have increased size, are not worth any more than the little stars. Each star, regardless of its size, represents 9,000 funds worth of value. This means that a CO like Andy, for example, has a normal power worth 27,000 and a superpower worth 54,000. One of the things I really like about Advanced Wars by Web is how they show you these values if you hover over the power bar with your mouse cursor. While this new star system is helpful for telling players the difference in value between the various COs, they actually make it harder to gauge exactly how much you need to get your power, as stars only have 3 states. They are either empty when below half full when they are above half, and then flashing once they reach the full value of 9,000. In Advanced Wars 2, you no longer get the universal 10% firepower increase when you activate your power. You only get the 10% defense. This is also the case for your superpower. This means that unless you have a firepower increasing power, the CO powers will now only boost the survivability of your troops. In Advanced Wars 2, the loser's advantage has also been lessened somewhat. You now generate 50% value from killing units, up from 25%, meaning that shooting down a fighter will now net you 10,000 funds worth of power charge, as opposed to the 5,000 it would have given you in Advanced Wars 1. It is still quicker to charge your CO power by losing your own units, as that will give you the full value, but destroying your opponent's units is now a little bit more effective than it used to be. The diminishing returns mechanic is still in effect in Advanced Wars 2, increasing the cost of your power by 20% each time it is activated, stacking up to 10 times for a total of 280%. And in this game, the strange mechanic of the power then dropping to 200% after the 10th time and staying there for the remainder of the match is still present. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it was intentional, or maybe they just copied over the game's code and didn't fix the bug. However, in Advanced Wars 2, there is a third, brand new mechanic that we need to talk about regarding CO powers, and that is the normal power penalty. Now, with the inclusion of superpowers added to the game, have you ever thought to yourself, hey, instead of using my superpower once, what if I use my normal power twice? Olaf, for example, has a price of 3 stars for his normal power Blizzard and a price of 7 stars for his superpower Winter Fury. So in theory, if he forgoes popping Winter Fury once and activates Blizzard for 2 consecutive turns, he should be able to make it snow 2 days in a row. Well, sadly, there is a mechanic in place to prevent exactly this type of play. You see, if you activate your normal power when you have more stars than you need to, it will actually cost you 20% extra. Here, for example, you can see that I activate Olaf's Blizzard with his superpower ready, and on the following turn, you can see that I do not have the normal power ready again. Though it is pretty close. You might still be able to get it on this turn if you destroy some units, but it's not guaranteed to happen. This is particularly notable when you try using this trick with a CO that has a very expensive normal power compared to their superpower. However, it is worth noting that some COs are still capable of pulling off several normal powers in a row, like Sensei and Colin, for example. But overall, it is probably best to avoid doing this, as it will result in less powers used over the course of a match. Just like in Advanced Wars 1, COs with different deployment costs will also affect their power charge. Combai's units are still worth 20% more in this regard, while Colin's units are worth 20% less. However, Hachi works in a very unique way, since he has the power to temporarily reduce deployment cost with his power. On a day-to-day basis, his units are worth 10% less due to their passive deployment reduction. But on the turn he activates his power, all of his units on the map actually have their value halved, regardless of when they were deployed. This means that Hachi's powers, in addition to allowing him to spam cheap fodder, also severely reduces the enemy CO power meter generation for that turn, making him even more broken. So yeah, with that, I think I have covered all the little intricate and convoluted mechanics in regards to CO powers. Do you think these weird changes help the game in any way? And do you think it's a good idea to leave so many mechanics unexplained? Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. I also want to thank Cardal, the maker of this forum post, for compiling a lot of useful data together in one place. It made making this video a lot easier. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and a comment, and subscribe for more Advanced Wars content. As always, my name is Mengs, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye!